Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 8th, 2023 meeting of the City of Westminster Planning Commission. Anyone who would like to speak that has not already signed up, please do so at the table at the back of the room. Will the clerk's office please call the roll?
Chair Boschert.
Here.
Commissioner McConnell.
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner
Excused, I believe.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Mayo.
Excused.
Commissioner Colling.
Excused.
Commissioner Dunn.
Here.
Commissioner Tomczyk.
Excused.
Commissioner Torres. Here. And Commissioner Zhang.
Excused. Okay, we have a quorum tonight, just barely. So all members present will be voting. Can we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 25th?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner McConnell. All right, can we get a roll call for the vote on that?
I think you can do this by voice vote.
Can we? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. It passes. The minutes have been approved. Okay, Abby, I believe you.
There is one item on the agenda for this evening. It's the public hearing and recommendation of a preliminary development plan and official development plan for Semper Gardens.
Thank you. And the public hearing and recommendation of the official or the preliminary development plan and the official development plan for Semper Gardens is on the agenda tonight. And Jacob, you are making a presentation?
Yes, I am, Chairperson. I'm ready if you are.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jacob Kaza. I am a senior planner with the city's planning division. Next slide, please. As a part of bringing this project before you, a staff agenda memo has been created and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo, its associated attachments, tonight's PowerPoint presentation, the public notices published in the Westminster window, the mailed notices, and the posted notices are hereby entered into the public record at this time. The notices of the public hearing were mailed to 778 property owners, addresses, and 3 HOAs within 1,000 feet of the parcel under consideration tonight. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. Here's a map showing the location of Semper Gardens. The parcels are outlined in red. The parcels are generally located at the southwest corner of West 104th Avenue and Sheridan Boulevard. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
could we recognize that Commissioner Zhang is here?
Sure. Do we need to do another roll call, or do we just recognize him?
Just recognize.
Okay. Commissioner Zhang has joined us, and he will be voting tonight.
The preliminary development plan amendment and official development plan would facilitate the subdivision of the property for 195 single-family detached and attached homes. The vehicular access points for the development, which have been approved on the preliminary development plan by City Council already, are from Sheridan Boulevard, West 102nd Avenue, and Benton Street. 3 new streets will be constructed with West 101st Avenue connecting to the stoplight on Sheridan Boulevard, giving access for the Waverly Acres and Highland Meadows neighbors to make an easier northbound turn on Sheridan. The development includes a publicly accessible park with a playground and splash pad. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.14 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 10 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing rezonings and preliminary development plans. Staff finds that the preliminary development plan amendment generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria that the PDP is compatible and harmonious with existing public and private development in the surrounding area. Streets, driveways, access points, and turning movements are designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP will not preclude future public land dedications. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the PDP is compatible with existing developments in the surrounding area, that the access points are designed in a safe and convenient manner, and that the PDP amendment will not preclude future land dedications. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.15 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 16 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing official development plans. Staff finds that the official development plan generally meet these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria that the plan exhibits sound, creative, or efficient planning and design principles. The architectural design of the structures, in this case, is compatible in terms of shape, color, forms, and material, and existing streets are suitable to carry the traffic. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the ODP exhibits sound planning by incorporating 4 different types of homes, that the architecture generally meets the design standards and reflects some of the common modern home designs, and that the surrounding road network can accommodate the additional trips generated by the new development. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing and recommend that City Council approve the PDP amendment and recommend that City Council approve the ODP, subject to the additional condition located in the summary of staff recommendation in the staff agenda memo. Next slide, please. Staff finds that a recommendation of approval of the applications would meet the city's strategic plan priority of ensure that Westminster offers a diverse range of amenities and activities for residents, businesses, and visitors that honor the city's history and support the arts, parks, recreation, open spaces, and libraries is met by facilitating new development and providing new publicly accessible park space. And the applicant is with us tonight, and they also have a presentation to share with you as well.
Very good. They can start whenever they're ready.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Willis with Berkeley Homes.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you can raise that podium if you would like.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want you to get a crick in your neck.
It's pretty slick. I'll start over. Jeff Willis with Berkeley Homes, 3033 South Parker Road in Aurora. And thank you again for having us here tonight. I will be very brief and then introduce our team to go into more detail on our plan, but just wanted to preface a few things. The plan you'll see here tonight is very similar to what the plan we showed about a year and a half ago at the original PDP and comp plan amendment hearing. Really the only change, as we'll highlight, is that plan had 202 homes. This plan has 195 homes, and that was a result of the City Council capping the density at 5 dwelling units per acre over the entire site, which comes out to 195 units. We'll also be covering some of the exceptions that we're requesting in the PDP. And really those are a result of trying to create a unique project that incorporates 4 different product types into one community. And that is really in line with the desires of the city to provide a varied housing mix within the city. So you'll see there's townhomes, paired homes or duplexes, smaller lot alley loaded homes, and then more traditional single family homes. And these are also very reflective in the several projects that Berkeley Homes has done in the city in the past, where we try to bring something that's unique and desirable to residents, but doesn't always fit within the exact confines of some of the city regulations. So you'll see there's a few exceptions that we're asking for there that we'll go over. Next slide, please. Just real quickly on the agenda, I'll introduce our team. We'll go briefly into our community outreach, recap the process we've been through, and then the projects itself with some highlights and proposals. Next slide. As I mentioned, I'm with Berkeley Homes, and our team here tonight is Marcus Pochner with the Pochner Company. Will give our presentation. We have the PCS Group, which is our landscape architect and land planner. Cage Engineering has done all of our civil design, and Godin Sudik Architects has done all of the home architecture as well as the amenity center on the site. Next slide. As I mentioned, Berkeley Homes has done several projects in neighborhoods within Westminster. over the last several years. The first one being Schoenberg Greens at 73rd and Sheridan. Then we did Connections, which is just down the road here, and then finally Skyline Greens, which is at 88th and Lowell. So we're very excited to continue our outstanding relationship with the city and city staff. So with that, I will turn it over to Marcus Pochner and be available for questions later.
You can certainly say, sir, you may lower that podium. That'd be okay. Good evening, folks. My name is Marcus Pochner. My address is 1480 Humboldt Street, Denver, Colorado, 80218. Thank you, Jeff. I have next slide, please. I'm honored to be here. I'm a community outreach and land use consultant for Berkeley Homes. We are going to focus a little bit tonight, as Jeff said, particularly on the community outreach and really what we have formed, this proposal that we've actually started in 2019 that we are bringing to conclusion here tonight on the ODP. Next slide. We use a concentric outreach philosophy where we reach out to the most impacted neighbors. As you look at this site, you think of those neighbors obviously immediately adjacent to Waverly Acres, to Highlands Meadows to the south, and then Highland Greens across Sheridan on the site. And of course, all of the other adjacent neighbors that are there. Then moving out from there, I think this has had a lot of feedback because of the unique nature of the site off of Sheridan. And actually, the existing neighborhood drives through this site every day to get into Waverly Acres. Next slide, please. This gives a little bit of a snapshot of that community outreach over a 4-year process. Certainly COVID involved in that as well. But it shows how we focused early on in 2019 that we knew we needed to do focus groups with the existing community. So we did small focus groups, planning groups that really focused on the type of product because we were really trying to bring in 4 different housing types to this site and talk about that comprehensive plan amendment that would make that be true. So we went through that. You can see 20 and 21, all of those additional meetings, actually just hundreds and literally thousands of touch points, individual touch points from neighbors. Last year in 2022, we brought the comprehensive plan, the rezoning itself, the PDP, all of those hearings where we received approval. And then in 2023, we've had the required meeting and then here for the amendment tonight. Next slide, please. Just recapping again that 2022, what has happened here. So again, we were presented to Westminster City Council on 1/24 of 2022, and they approved the comprehensive plan, the rezoning, and the PDP. Jeff mentioned briefly, but I just want to be sure and highlight. They added 2 additional conditions there. The 5 dwelling units per acre for a max of 195 units, and then also that townhomes needed to be incorporated into the plan. So that's the 4th housing type. They wanted to see those townhomes along Sheridan, and I'll go into more detail on that. Next slide. So this is actually the approved PDP, just reflecting back. So there is a PDP here on the site, just to be clear, what we're asking for, and then we'll get to our ask. So you all went through that process, recommended approval as well. And we showed the 4 different housing types that were there. A full PLD, full public land dedication. We are dedicating that land to the north along Middle Highland Creek there to really enhance that trail and that corner there at 104th and Sheridan. And then also those no townhomes in the southern parcel. That was very important to the neighbors, the feedback that we heard. So that southern parcel generally south there of 102nd. Next slide, please. This is just an image for everybody to think about. It is pretty remarkable, I'll be honest, to see a presented plan that was approved to then come back and actually lose density. That doesn't happen very often, but we are showing you those changes, what happened because of the city council conditions. So this shows in the red circles the changes, those loss or reduction of 7 units. I think if you'll look at each one of those, you see kind of where the configuration happened on the immediately north, the 4 townhomes on Sheridan, and then 2 adjacent homes adjacent to the detention. All of those really benefit the existing neighborhood. It actually adds additional separation. It provides better porosity and separation from them, and actually allows the general public to have better access to the trails, particularly in the northeast corner of this site. Next slide, please. This shows, again, the city approvals that are in place. So again, going through this since 2019, the comprehensive plan, the rezoning, and the PDP. What we are seeking tonight, probably in reverse order, my apologies, is first the PDP plan amendment and then the ODP, the official development plan. I do want to point out, and thanks to Jacob for the staff report and all their involvement, the staff has been remarkable on this. It said very clearly in the staff report that the purpose of the PDP amendment is solely for review of the exceptions that we are asking for. That is the change that we are making, is really bringing those. So if PDP exists on this site, we are amending it to bring to life the exceptions that we are requesting in the ODP. I do want to focus that we've tried all along to focus on these community benefits, inclusive planning, the full PLD, how to respect that pledge all along, find increased water efficiency in our landscaping and the dedication itself, and then enhance transportation structure, including adding 3 new roadways to the site, which we think really benefit the existing community. Next slide. Our current request, we can keep going, please. This is the request, so we're going to focus now a little bit on the ODP sheet, and then we'll turn ourselves to the exceptions. So the ODP sheets and the highlights, what you have encompassed, if you will, in the ODP is, of course, the site plan, the street sections, the landscaping plan and details, all of the landscaping, and then the architectural standards. We also go into great lengths on the amenity building that's included in the park as well. So these are the sheets that are included in the specific ODP. Next slide. This is an example and shows for the public really and those watching to see the site plan and all the detail. That's of course illustrative plan on the right, but this is how it comes to life in the ODP. Again, showing the 4 different housing types, and I'll go through those in just a moment, and how we're able to have the proper buffer and landscaping to the existing community to the west of us. Next slide. Let's focus a little bit on that landscaping highlight. We are very proud of the kind of native plant palette and native landscaping that we're bringing in. Again, that full PLD dedication, you can see that connection point to the Middle Highland Trail there and how much and how important that is. As you all recall, we went through a process, we're actually dedicating that and helping construct that so people can have that amenity. It's been a missing link, if you will, on that side of the trail, and this will allow people to not only move to the west, but really be able to access it again off of Sheridan. We also talk a little bit about the enhanced buffer, that 3rd bullet there along Sheridan. That really resulted, part of the reason we lost those 4 townhomes is we wanted that additional buffer to really have that enhanced buffer along Sheridan to provide a better street presence and better livability. Next slide. This again shows examples for the public of kind of the landscaping plans and the native plant palette that is throughout the site. Next slide. I do want to focus particularly on the park and the amenities. Again, a private park with public access. So this shows the amenities that we're planning there. It also acts in an important way. It buffers that kind of northeast corner of Waverly Acres, right? So the existing neighborhood gets that additional buffer there. And it's important that it connects as well to the trail system and to the PLD dedication there. We thought that was really important to kind of pull people and again, provide that buffer along 104th and also tuck that into the neighborhood a little bit for the buffer and the transition and the existing green space. Next slide. This shows, importantly, and this is illustrative, but it shows really how this changes that I think have resulted very well from City Council, kind of the views if you're looking at the site. So this is an aerial site. I think that maps or the view down in the corner is just slightly off, but this looks at 101st looking north to 102nd. So the very top of the screen there would be 102nd. So I think that that's showing, again, kind of the homes that are there, single family or detached homes, and then the paired homes, looking at that to kind of understand. So just showing, again, particularly focus on the buffer along Sheridan and that enhanced landscaping edge. Next slide. I just heard my team say we're going to fix that slide, so I know our view corridors are slightly off there. This is if we're flipped around and looking southward. So I believe this is from 102nd, then looking down. And so you see, again, the paired homes, and you really get to see that enhanced setback on Sheridan. It's pretty remarkable to do that. And with that alley-loaded product that we've been able to bring in there, you get even further separation from Sheridan. I will note that, and if we have Highland Green neighbors here as well, all 4 home products have the exact same height. So everything we are doing here is focused in the same height of these products. What we wanted to do is just be sure that that typology, that variety, what your comp plan calls for, we're really having that option and bringing in the appropriate density on the site. So again, it doesn't change the height of what they see, but it does see an additional setback along Highland Greens with that removal of the 4 units as well. Next slide. This shows specifically those townhomes. So again, from 103rd to 102nd, looking southbound there and kind of thinking about those townhomes, you see that really generous setback along Sheridan to get that landscaping and native plant pollet, we think really adds to that experience. We also think it's very important for slowing the traffic. We certainly understand the substantial traffic that is there today, and we believe that this really allows the livability of the site to increase as well. Next slide. This focuses folks on the 4 types of housing. So this is probably helpful. We thought about doing this in the beginning, but it's important to just kind of understand the full site layout. So as you all approved in the PDP, these 4 house types that are there. So again, it shows that single family, more traditional detached product on the north of the site. You see the alley loaded townhomes, the alley loaded paired homes in kind of the pink color, and then the alley loaded single family homes detached. I will just note that the whole goal of this plan is we touch all the existing neighborhood, which are single family homes. We touch them or mirror them with single family homes. We thought that was very important, and then we shift the attached product to Sheridan to absorb some of the noise and some of the impact of Sheridan. Next slide. These are examples. Our architect team is here to go through them in any detail that you would like, but this shows the combination of materials and the design on the single family detached. Next slide. This would be on the north part of the site. This is the alley loaded single family detached. So again, showing the adjoining homes just to the east of the existing Waverly neighborhood, of course, turned on their side, most of them abutting the neighborhood, but again, shows the single family detached architecture. Next slide. This is the paired home. So again, lives and feels just like a larger single family home, is a product that we really think is needed from a missing middle housing perspective and allows, again, the right form to have 2 units on that site. Next slide. A substantial change here, and really credit to the neighbors. We had shown you and everyone previously a 6-plex in the townhome product. We have removed that, and we are only doing a maximum of a 4-plex. That's how we lost some of those units on that side. But it shows the 4-plex in the townhomes. Again, really more appropriate scale, we think, in the neighborhood. Next slide. This is something we're probably really focused on tonight, again, already encompassed in the existing PDP, but the full public PLD or public land dedication. So going through that, but it just details the rest of our parks, the private park, the private open spaces that are in our site. And then it shows in the end, the total site is about 39 acres. We have about 14.63 of those in open space. So 37%, just over 37% of the site is in private or PLD open space. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to transition to the exceptions. And I just want to note something that Jeff, and I'm just working through this so we can have any questions that you have. I do want to go back to what Jeff said, that based on their 3 or 4 communities, many communities that they're doing here, these are the type of products that we think are, again, really responsible planning for this and to bring 4 product types to life in this site. Again, as the staff report very accurately described, is that to bring in an alley-loaded product with single-family detached and attached, the existing design guidelines really don't address that in the proper ways. They don't have a lot of variation. So we had to go through and make these exception requests. And we think, again, the exceptions actually help the existing neighborhood as well and really add to the built environment. So I'll go through these first 4 exceptions. And again, our team is here to answer any question. So the first are the walks, and we show that in kind of that pink fuchsia color there. We're requesting to allow both detached and attached walks instead of detached only. The reason for that is simply because of the utility separation that's required by code. So it's just the flexibility because we have different products, some alley, some not, so we need that variation on the walks. The number 2 is right there, is the amenity areas. There's a part in the design guidelines that requires a hot tub. We just don't think that's the appropriate use today, is to have a standalone hot tub there. So we're making a request. That's an actual exception to remove that. So we're trying to remove the hot tub and include alternative amenities. The third is really focused on the setbacks. And I want to just point out, you can see number 3 there, it's focused on a lot of those alley loaded. We have another slide that details this, okay? So I'll come back to number 3 and talk about those setbacks because they're very important. Number 4, the property setbacks. So again, reflecting from the property, the existing property, Waverly Acres, we are requesting a reduction to 25 feet instead of the required 30. The reason for that is because of the existing privacy fences, the grade separation, the way we have oriented the homes, and again, the same single family product that we are mirroring them with. So again, abutting them with additional single family detached homes. Next slide. This actually goes through the exceptions that I mentioned on the building setbacks. So this is, you can see, as the challenge with the existing design standards of bringing in these 4 housing typologies. So you see the differences. If you look at the columns below, the existing and the exceptions, you see that there are very few exceptions on the front-loaded product. We're really asking for a little smaller setback in the front and to the garage, and then on the side setback. Where all the exceptions come in is on the alley-loaded attached product. The reason for that is that we haven't really planned that, and so we're changing that. So the setbacks are different because it's alley-loaded. So we're requesting a number of exceptions for that alley-loaded product. Again, that really is just to allow that planning, the modern method of kind of how we've addressed these housings and to really make that more livable. So you'll see a number of those exceptions. It's alley-loaded, so there's less front setback, for instance, the way that we live in those homes. Next slide. This, again, our architectural team is here. These are exceptions that focus on architectural design. From some older parts of the code. As you all recall, we were here recently to talk about very similar amendments that you likely will see. There's a requirement, I believe, for a 512 pitch. We're actually requesting a 412 roof pitch here. The bay or box windows, we're not requesting that there are some elements of the home that do not have those bay or box windows. And then we show, of course, the recessed garage. We're asking some of the units not to have recessed garages. As you can see here in the bottom left, we're also requesting exceptions on the outdoor living. So I just want to talk about what that means. There's the single family detached product, those alley loaded. They have a front porch, yes, and they have a patio. So 66 of those units have both of the outdoor living. But single family detached front loaded, those do not have the porch. Because they're front loaded, we didn't have the porch added to those units. Again, that's the way they kind of live today. It really fit the layout of the community and the way we were kind of orienting the homes. Next slide. This one I detailed earlier, just want to point out again, this is a specific requirement to allow alternative amenities instead of the required hot tub in the park, the private park, but that is a specific request as well. Next slide. So, ladies and gentlemen, I tried to go through that pretty quickly just to be sure and allow time for everybody to look at that and go through the exceptions and ask more questions. I do want to mention on the approval criteria, next slide, that we have spent a great deal of time the last 3 or 4 years going through this process. And I just want to point out the approval criteria for the PDP amendment. Again, the PDP amendment is being changed here to encompass and review the exceptions that we're asking for. There's a PDP in place, and we just wanted to believe, as you look at the third requirement there, it's a very important, that design standards or limited requirements are warranted by virtue of design or special amenities incorporated into the development proposed. It is very rare to have 4 housing types in this type of site where we're not burdening the existing neighborhood. The traffic flows through us. We are outside of that. We are not allowing our traffic to go through the existing neighborhood, and we are asking really for the appropriate buffers so that our site can really honor the existing neighborhood there. Next slide. The ODP, we believe, is in full conformance with all of the design criteria, with all of the requirements and city codes. We believe that we've worked very hard. And again, as Jeff started this presentation, it is completely reflective of what we presented to everyone in the PDP, with the exception of losing the 7 units on the site. So with that, if we go to the next slide, this is the approval criteria. And finally, our closing slide. We're more than happy to answer any questions. Our whole team is here to have any detailed questions, but we would respectfully request your approval for this, or recommendation for approval on this site. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion, questions, or comments from planning commissioners? Okay, I don't see any at this time. And Jacob, I wanted to ask one last time, do you have any other presentations?
No, we do not.
You are finished. Okay, thank you. At this time then, I will open the public testimony. We have at least 4 voicemails to play, and after that we will take in-person testimony. And if you have signed up in the back of the room, you will be called in the order you signed up. And Abby, whenever you get a chance, go ahead and play those voicemails.
A resident of Westminster, 10250 Benton Street. There are too many items to mention, but I'll highlight those that remain very large concern for us regarding the approval of this change in density and the approval of this plan. First, this directly conflicts with the city's established growth plan. It's been in place for a long time now, which only allows for R3.5 in that location. Rather than chalking this up to a times of change response, perhaps the city, which has been besieged by requests for growth like this, should take the time to refocus on what's best for the city, not just singular plots of land. The approvals of several other developments in this same style and density should prompt the city to act responsibly instead of being so reactive for the last several years. Second, along with resource issues like water, which have been mentioned, I'm sure, and safe number of exits, which some board members just want on the record so they can claim they raised the issue, a clear dodge of responsibility. It's very disappointing. There are environmental concerns as well. The reckless nature of the teardown of the houses on the site and the asbestos results from said homes doesn't bode well for the responsible building practices of the involved parties. Quick actions result in errors like this, and the impacts are almost always negative for people and their health. And that means the residents, us around the neighborhood. Third, there's a concern that without proper language, the slow development process, which likely is going to be over 3 years as it's been communicated, will result in yet another request in the future for refining to an even higher density for undeveloped lands, just with changing markets. To be expected that this would come back as a secondary request. If this approval goes through, I'd recommend that the city places language to freeze this density for a decade or more, passing the buck on this issue, saying it's not the city's position to limit within the plan approval, will most assuredly come back to haunt residents. And we can guarantee that any poor council decisions will also come back to negatively impact those council members in the future. We request that you listen to the citizens on this and deny this development from proceeding. Affordable housing claims when the city is fully invested in, affordable housing it's only available. The fully invested right now, the city's fully invested in the new downtown area. And so to claim that affordable housing is the reason that this is being developed is just false. The new downtown area, where the city has been fully invested, is the proper place for nearly half of the units being approved in this request. And I've been very disappointed to hear council members say that they want a diversity of housing available when previous councils specifically put all of their coin bag, all their money, everything into that downtown development. Really, really hope that you listen to citizens on this and deny this development from going forward. Thank you.
My name is Sandra Oyarzuniasison. I live at 10250 Benton Street in Westminster, Colorado. I've been a resident of Waverly Acres for 25 years now. I would like to address the Planning Commission about my opposition to this PDP-ODP for the development of just under 200 more homes on the Semper Gardens land. There's numerous environmental and logistical concerns that have been voiced and seem to be being ignored. The additional demand and burden on the city's water supply and infrastructure come to mind. Even with the developer claiming that the yards will be xeriscaped, the homes will still be using all kinds of water within the homes. The Pillar of Fire area and the new downtown Westminster area are already going to be adding a significant number of homes that will also be adding to the burden on the water supply and infrastructure. The traffic is already awful down Sheridan, and adding a minimum of 400 more vehicles to this area will only exacerbate the problem. Finally, I'd like to point out that the mayor voiced concern over what would happen in the event that we have a situation like the Marshall Fire, where swift evacuations would have to occur. This neighborhood only has exits onto Sheridan, so adding another 400 plus vehicles would make evacuating these neighborhoods quickly a dire situation. And that has to be considered and evaluated before you add significantly more homes to this area. Let's please be responsible in growth for the city and not overburden our streets and infrastructure. Thank you for your time. Again, let's please be responsible.
Hi, my name is Haley Martinez. I live at 10450 Holland Street in Westminster, 80021. I was just calling. I've lived in Westminster my entire life, and my husband and I are looking to buy a house after getting married, and because of the lack of affordable housing in Westminster, we are being forced to move up to Windsor near Fort Collins, Colorado, because the housing is much more affordable. So I just wanted to leave the message that we support the Berkeley Homes community at Semper Gardens and are looking very forward to that housing development so that we can move back to Westminster soon. Thanks.
Alan Farb, 4810 West 102nd Avenue, Westminster, Colorado 80031, regarding testimony for the public hearing Tuesday, August 8th, 2023, regarding the proposed Semper Gardens, blocks 1, 2, 3, 16, 17, and I think parts of track 32. I have not seen traffic entrance exit plans for the proposed development. Major concern is that the entrance to and from Semper development onto Sheridan Boulevard will use or incorporate existing traffic signals at 101st Avenue, which goes through the Highland Greens neighborhood. 101st Avenue travels east until it fluidly merges northward with Wolf Street, which connects to 104th Avenue. This is a major street thoroughfare through the Highland Greens neighborhood. The posted speed limit in Highland Greens is 25 miles per hour. When traffic along North Sheridan Boulevard between 98th and 104th Avenues backs up, the traffic diverts heavily along 101st Avenue, Wolf Street to connect with 104th Avenue. With Hampshire Park entrance abutting 101st Avenue, many children, adults, seniors, and their pets walk along and or cross 101st Avenue to access the park. There is a single marked and designated crosswalk with signage to note the crosswalk, but some drivers, of course, ignore the pedestrians. Although there are 3 street calming devices that were installed, only one actually calms traffic. The other 2 do not effectively slow traffic at all, despite the developer's otherwise public claim to council and public. Therefore, it's important to the safety, noise, and environmental needs of the Highland Greens neighborhood that traffic from Semper development is not directed via the traffic signal at 101st Avenue through the Highland Greens neighborhood. Should the city choose to incorporate the existing 101st and Sheridan Boulevard intersection, the Planning Commission should have all traffic exiting the Semper development to be directed onto Sheridan Boulevard and to turn strictly left or right emergency vehicles accepted. This can be accomplished, of course, with physical construction and or traffic signage. Note that driving through Highland Greens to reach 104th Avenue to head east in order to avoid the traffic signal at 104th Avenue in Sheridan naturally occurs without restrictions that are developed by can do that without the city traffic managers, engineers. If, of course, the entrance from Sheridan Boulevard is a new signal at 102nd Avenue, the above, of course, is moot, except that traffic naturally will back up on Sheridan Boulevard with traffic signals at 101st Avenue, 102nd Avenue, and 104th Avenue. Second concern, in a Q&A telephone informational forum, the developers and builders of Semper Gardens twice would not commit to incorporating water conservation appliances in the homes and townhomes they're building. For example, installing dual flush toilets, shower tub, flow and temperature controls, low volume shower heads and faucets, front loading washing machines. The builders must commit to incorporating such water conservation appliances. And third and final, the Semper development renderings depict a lot of greenery, meaning trees, shrubs, grass, and other foliage. While there was some tepid pronouncements from the developers that the trees would be hardy, drought resistant, water sipping, the city must require this. Furthermore, rather than thirsty water guzzling grass, a contracted commitment from the developers and builders to install only xeriscape lawns must be secured by the city. Thank you so much.
Okay, is that all of the voicemails?
That's the final voicemail.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to open the...
Chair Boschert,
Yes.
may I make a request?
Yes, please.
I apologize, but may I request a quick 5-minute restroom break prior to public comments?
Sure. Let's go ahead and take a break for 5 minutes. We will reconvene at 7:47.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order once again. And at this time, we will start the public testimony. And I would like to remind people to limit your speaking to 5 minutes. And if someone else has stated your attitude towards this applicant, instead of repeating the comments, please just say you agree with the previous speaker, just for the sake of time. All right, Abby, do we have a list?
We do. The first speaker is Mike Byrne.
Short guy. For the record, I'm Mike Byrne. I live at 2391 Ranch Reserve Ridge, Westminster, Colorado. So I've been a resident of Westminster for over 40 years now, I think. And also have developed some properties here. I developed the One Park Center building up on 120th and Mariposa, Country Club Village on 120th and Federal, retail center, and then I did the Ranch Reserve development here as well. So both a resident and a developer, which is a little unusual. I also was on the Planning Commission in the 80s, so I appreciate what you guys do and volunteer your time, and was chairman back in the mid-80s. So just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the development. I've been working with the three landowners since, well, one landowner since 2016 and the other one since 2018 on this property. And one of the big benefits that I think people miss is that Amberwood had an ODP on their 4 acres on the north that they could never move forward on, couldn't make it work financially. And then Holtzclaw tried to get ODPs on their property, their 8 acres, for a number of years, and it just hasn't worked financially. A number of builders have gone away. And then the Hahn property, the 25 acres on the north side, had an OD, or went through the process and got what do we call them? Water commitments. What's the old term when you get water commitments? And then that builder couldn't go ahead because they couldn't make it work financially. So one of the beauties of this development for me, and I live in the city and I want to see something that blends together, is that you don't have 3 different landowners coming in with different properties and could be a big hodgepodge. You have one builder who has really come together, and we've worked very hard to hold the landowners together for 4 to 5 years through, all the delays that we've had in the city and stuff for sewer moratoriums and everything else to keep this together and make it work. So I believe that what they're doing with all 3 parcels together, if you approve this, you'll be approving a much better development than if you saw 3 different properties coming to you separately. Also, by going over, I think it's 100 units, Jacob, it requires a clubhouse and some more amenities that you wouldn't have if each of these parcels had come in separately and done their own thing. So that's another amenity for the residents. Even though there's a big rec center next door, they'll still have their own private park and clubhouse and everything, and that's important that Berkeley has been able to work with all 3 landowners together. The other point I think that I wanted to get on the record is that these are all for sale units. They're not rental units, and there's been a lot of challenges in the city with rental units and high density, and this is not a high density project. Rental unit projects are 8, 10, 12, 16, 20 units to the acre, and this is a blend of overall of 5 units, and some of the parcels are even less than 5 units per acre. So it would be considered by anybody in real estate as a lower density project of for sale units, which I think is what I'd like to see in Westminster as a resident. So I think with that, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's.
Thank you.
The next speaker I have is Robert Kanata.
Hi, my name's Robert Kanata. I live on 10351 Eaton Street. And the concern that we have is exiting 102nd onto Sheridan to head north on Sheridan. At the light there, if you have 4 cars making a U-turn to go north towards Broomfield, it takes you sometimes up to like 5 minutes just to turn. And another issue you're going to have at the intersection of 101st is there's not going to be enough room to have 7 or 8 cars stacked up on top of one another to make the U-turn to go north on Sheridan to go towards Broomfield. So is that being addressed? Because I didn't see anything about that in the planning. And then there was the neighborhood was wondering what kind of perimeter fence is going to be built around Waverly Acres when this construction project starts. And that's about it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
The next speaker I have is Robert Farner.
Hi, I'm Robert Farnes. I write sloppy, so that's my fault. But anyway, I just wanted to point out a couple things. I've been paying attention to this project in the initial meetings in the rec center and online, many meetings online and all that. So I'm as aware as I think I can be, and I just wanted to point out a couple things that happened prior to some of the approvals that I noticed. One refers to the trail system on the north in the land that's being deeded to the city. It was stated that that would connect to the other trails and you could go to the rec center and all that. And then Jason in a recent, or Jacob, excuse me, in a recent meeting said, no, that doesn't happen. That's gonna be part of another project, but I believe it was the Floodplain Commission or something like that. So that trail connectivity was essentially put out there as a benefit and then says, well, we're not right there. So I'm concerned about that kind of approach to how we're addressing things. And similarly with the private park, they called it even in this meeting a public park, but it's the private park that has to be constructed based on the density. The use of that park for anyone else was mentioned in another meeting that would depend totally on the new HOA in the new neighborhood. So again, the benefits are like, okay, there's gonna be a park here that you could use, well, maybe not. And there's gonna be a trail system here that's gonna benefit everybody, maybe not. So I don't know exactly which is fact, and that's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is John Palmer.
John Palmer, got a couple questions here that I think need to be addressed. One being the Metro District. Is this going to be a Metro District? That's the question. Secondly, there's been an ongoing concern with this the Holtzclaw property and the demolition of that building. And now that we've had the asbestos, lead-based paint sitting on that property since November, I know here recently, last month, they came in and put a tarp over it after CDPHE came in and said, yes, there is asbestos there that has been leaching into the ground. How will that affect the neighbors in Waverly Acre, their kids, the people driving up and down Sheridan, the people across Sheridan? Again, asbestos, lead, and lead-based paint are all not things to be messed with. So I think you people need to ask questions and get that addressed. Next, looking at City Code 11514 and 11515, it says that this development meets or exceeds, exceeds isn't the right word, but it is in compliance with city codes. Unfortunately, it's not. City Code 11-4-6 P6A. Look that up. It references barbed wire, how barbed wire is not permitted or to be maintained in the city. I know for a fact that the Hahn property on the north lane has barbed wire, as does the Holtzclaw property. So therefore, I can't believe that they're in compliance with these properties not meeting code requirements. Therefore, I think that would be reason enough for this to be tabled till that issue is addressed and they can come back in front of you and ask for an approval at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
And did you all get that code I mean, write it down, look at it, read it. It's 11-4-6, P is in park, parentheses 6, and parentheses A. And it talks about barbed wire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Karen Calavity.
Karen Calavity, 9940 West Cliff Parkway. I don't live specifically near this, but I do go to the recreation center. And this property, it's just a shame to have some of our open spaces crowded in with high density housing. Now, the exceptions they're talking about are exceptions to the density that was really written into the code. I think it was 3.5 units per acre, and they're going for 5. And then with the design, they're using the design constraints as an excuse for not meeting setback requirements and that kind of thing. Good design means you meet constraints with a suitable design product. Looking at that plan, it looks like there's going to be frontage roads visible from Sheridan, and that's their alley loaded, and it's a frontage road, as even they showed, and they tried to disguise it with all this landscaping, and that's a question too. Is the landscaping going to be lush enough to hide some of that stuff? I just think it's bad design to have frontage roads, which are their alleys, right adjacent to Sheridan. That's a terrible view. That's not good planning. And then, yeah, I'm just seeing all these excuses for high density. High density can be accomplished, but it has to meet design standards. And this is not meeting design standards, and they're using the building types as an excuse not to meet design standards. It's like good design takes into account constraints and makes it work, or else you need to reduce the density. Because I just don't think looking at frontage roads, which are called alleys in this plan, is a good view along Sheridan. And this is not what people want in that area, is to have this kind of high density. High density is suitable in like the new downtown. That's a suitable place for high density. But this wasn't zoned that way, and this is not looking good, even from their renderings, that they purport to, show how great it is, and it's like, that looks pretty bad.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Linda Belashek. I apologize for.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Michael Chin.
Very good, thank you.
And the last speaker I have signed up is Clegg Williams.
My name is Clegg Williams. I live at 3413 West 109th Circle up in Legacy Ridge. Long-time, 25-year plus resident of Westminster. Love the city, love everything you guys do. Could work on the golf course a little bit more and get it going, but for now, we'll pass that. But I've known Berkeley Homes for a long, long time. I know the principals well. I know the construction side of it very well. And the opportunity that Westminster is kind of hopefully overseeing everything is that you're getting 4 great products built by one builder. So there's, just like anything else, is streamlined. There's one person to report to. Anybody, I guarantee, in this room can call their office and ask for Jeff Willis, and Jeff will pick up the phone. It's just what type of company they are. Berkeley as a whole, the construction side of it,
keeps a great project. If anybody has taken the time and driven around and seen the other projects that they've done, they're beautiful, and they're years old now. Some of them are 8 to 10 years old, and they look like they were just built. So the quality and craftsmanship that's being built and what they say they're going to do, they absolutely do. As a future potential very good homeowner of the product that they're looking at building, I'd like to continue this to see it going on through. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last speaker I'd signed up.
Okay. And I need to ask Mr. Graham, can we ask for anyone who did not sign up that still wants to speak? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak that did not get a chance to sign up? All right. I will close the public testimony portion of this hearing and ask if there's any questions or comments from planning commissioners. Commissioner Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess these questions will go back to Mr. Pochner. There were a couple of issues raised here that I would like to just address very briefly, if I could. The lead paint issue that one testimony or one testifier brought up in the back. Lead paint and asbestos. That comes from the destruction. There were some houses, there's some properties on one of the parcels. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And is there such an issue, and if so, how has it been addressed?
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll have Jeff address that one if that's okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes, that is correct. There were 2 older homes on that property. The city actually was the ones that demolished those homes, I think, and the city staff could probably answer this better than I can. Working in conjunction with the landowner, there was some concerns about people sleeping in those homes and just the safety of the issue, and felt like, is my understanding, the city felt like an action needed to be taken quickly, and so went ahead and demoed that property. It's since been determined that there was some asbestos in those property. The city commissioned an environmental firm to what they call delineate those areas, and that's why you see the caps, the plastic visqueen over it. That's there now. We're in the process now of getting demolition proposals or removal proposals, so that's in the process right now. But it's my understanding that the property has been stabilized, and to my knowledge, there isn't. I'm not an environmental expert, but there is not a leaching issue, and that can be removed safely.
I see. Thank you. Just a quick follow-up then. The city was, well, like you said, the city was responsible for the tearing down of the property.
Correct.
Et cetera. Will your company at some point take up any responsibility for cleanup if there is any?
Yes, for sure, definitely there will. It'll be probably in conjunction with ourselves, the city, and the current landowner. We're not the current landowner right now, but all 3 parties are working together to come up with a plan. Certainly that'll be done before any development work gets started.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
And I have a question for you, Mr. Willis. The issue of barbed wire was also brought up. Is that something that's been taken care of or is in process? What's up with that?
I don't know for sure, but my guess is there probably is barbed wire in the property. There's been a long-term lease with one of the property owners and a horse owner on that property, so my guess is that it's there. I don't know if that's barbed wire or just 3-strand, but all of that wire would come down as part of the development.
Great, thank you. And I have a question for the city staff. The question of a metro district was brought up. Can you fill us in on that?
Yes, Chairperson Bosher. So the Metro District is not a thing for them. Jeff Willis has said he's not applying for a metro district. That actually happens after, in the city's process, it happens after the ODP would be approved. And we have an annual cycle to do that. So he'd apply in May, but he's made his intention clear he's not applying for one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner McConnell.
Thank you, Chair Bosher. It's not so much a question as it is a follow-up on the barbed wire. And Jake, I'm going to ask you to help me on this a little bit. So I did look up what Mr. Palmer gave us is for in the city code, and I want to read from prohibited fences. It says barbed wire or similar sharp-pointed fences shall not be erected or maintained unless approved on the official development plan or the preliminary development plan, and when approved shall be installed at a height not less than 6 feet above the surrounding grade level. Jacob, are you aware of any mention in the PDP of barbed wire that we approved?
No, so the approval criteria is for the document itself. So this document would remove the barbed wire, and then they would put the homes, the landscaping and such, and there is no new barbed wire as part of the development.
Right, and there was none proposed as part of the PDP.
Correct, there's none proposed as part of the PDP.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Torres.
I just have a question regarding the exception you guys are asking for parking to eliminate some of the spaces. I guess I'm curious.
I don't believe we're asking for that. I think it was part of there was some parking exceptions in the originally approved PDP.
Okay.
That's already, I'm turning to my team, but
okay,
yeah.
then disregard my
Okay,
question.
thank you.
I guess I do have one other question. Considering the situation in the world right now, is Berkeley considering minimizing the use of natural gas in these properties?
I think it's a consideration in every project that's really done in conjunction with the city and Excel. I know it's kind of a fluid, not to use a pun, but a fluid movement with what Excel is working towards and what cities are working towards. We are not specifically saying no natural gas. We still have an incredible demand from our buyers for natural gas, but I think it would be more a circumstance of a city desire and Excel desire.
Okay, is there any way you can encourage or consider the use of electricity rather than gas for water heating, for instance? I know furnaces are a different animal, but you could see a great reduction in the use of fossil fuels if you considered or promoted electric water heating. Have you considered that?
Frankly, we're not that far along into the specifics of each home. I know the comment came up about water saving devices as well. We will use water savings devices, but these are homes that won't start construction for 2 years. So I expect there'll be a lot of changes in specs and water changing devices as well as electric appliances in that time. So I guess not to sound like I'm dodging the question, but we will certainly take that into consideration, but not knowing what that technology will be, don't want to commit to something now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Zhang.
This isn't so much a project design question, but it was brought up and I just wanted to address it. One of the members of the audience brought up accessibility to the amenities. So the residents in Waverly Acres, will they be able to access that or no?
Our intent is to put a public use easement as part of the plat on the green space of, there's the amenity building and the surrounding uses, as well as I call it a park, that park would be accessible to the public. The amenity building, which will be owned and maintained by the HOA, we feel is more appropriate to let the future age govern those rules, since they will be, obviously they'll want control over who has access.
But the park,
yes, the park area.
All right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I would like to call the question, or at least get a motion going here on this applicant. Do we have someone who would like to make a motion? Commissioner Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to recommend that the City Council approve the PDP amendment for Semper Gardens.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner McConnell. Any discussion? I would like to say that I think the fact that there is one developer handling this entire parcel is a positive, because you'll get much more reliable and amenable development. So I think that's a positive, and also it will allow them to make a profit, whereas a smaller company might not be able to. And Commissioner McConnell? Oh, okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chairperson Boschert.
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner McConnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jeong.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Now we need a second motion on the ODP. Don't be cowards here. Commissioner McConnell.
Thank you, Chair Bossert. I move to recommend the City Council approve the ODP for Semper Gardens, subject to the conditions listed in the agenda memo.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Discussion. Seeing none, I will call the question. Can we have a roll call, please?
I apologize for the delay.
No problem.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner McConnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
Commissioner Jeong.
Yes.
And Chairperson Boschert.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you for the presentation. The City Council will be taking this up in about a month and a half. So if you have any further comments you'd like to make, there will be a hearing at the City Council meeting as well. All right. Is there any old business we need to attend to? Nope. All right. And the next meeting is the 22nd of August. And one item on the agenda. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Seeing that there's no old business, I hereby adjourn this meeting. Thank you.